Hello, my name is Emerson Brady, and today I will be talking about how early slapstick comedy was an act of feminist protest. When most people think of early slapstick cinema, they picture Charlie Chaplin running around, accidentally starting fights, acting out in just chaotically hilarious ways, such as this. This scene is from the movie Pawn Shop. What a lot of people don't know is that slapstick comedy opened the doors for many women to enter the film industry. Women like Mabel Normand, who I will talk a lot about later, Marion Davies, who plays the star-eyed country girl Peggy Pepper in this movie Show People, or perhaps the female version of Laurel and Hardy, Marion Byron and Anita Garvin, who star in the film A Pair of Tights, which tells the story of two women who are out on a double date with two very cheap men. And hilarious insanity ensues, ice cream being thrown in faces, the classics. As I said before, at the time, the film industry had a lot of opportunities for women that not many other job markets had. Women from all over the country came to Los Angeles compelled by this idea of stardom and the prospect of work that would be appreciated by not only other women but also men. Famous screenwriter Clara Beranger told in an interview in 1919, of all the different industries that have offered opportunities to women, none have given them the chance that motion pictures have. Slapstick comedy, in particular, allowed women a sense of agency to break out of the traditional expectations placed upon them and to be insane and goofy and fun. Now, before diving into the role slapstick comedy played in female political commentary, it's important to note the time period. I would say that slapstick comedy is kind of a byproduct of the silent era. Without sound to tell a story, dramatic movements and physical gags became key to creating a humorous film. This all happened around the turn of the 20th century. At the same time, the women's suffrage movement was taking off. At the turn of the 20th century, women were isolated from the formal structures of political life, like voting, holding an elective office, serving on juries. They were second-class citizens. At this time, the women's suffrage movement was taking off, and women were protesting in the streets, demanding their rights to vote and to not be treated as second class anymore. On June 4th, 1919, the 19th Amendment was passed, and it granted women the right to vote. While this is all happening, women are just exploding in the film industry. Some scholars estimate that half of all film scenarios in the silent era were written by women. This meant that women were able to give commentary on a suffrage movement and their role in society. In recent years, sketch comedy shows like Saturday Night Live have been notorious for their skits about COVID, Donald Trump, and every other insane world event. While I would say that this commentary is a bit more obvious than it was in the early 20th century, slapstick was still a way for women to make fun of themselves and make light of their gendered roles in society. The first film I'd like to talk about is Mary Jane's Mishap. It's a 1903 British short silent comedy film directed by George Albert Smith and starring Laura Bailey. The film follows a housemaid, Mary Jane, who uses paraffin to light the kitchen stove. Naturally, it explodes and she turns into smoke and explodes up the chimney. The film ends with a scene of her gravestone. Here lies Mary Jane. And then it looks like people are coming to her funeral and she ends up laughing and haunting them. It's completely absurd violence, exaggerated. It's what slapstick is all about, really. And it's subtly a feminist political commentary. I mean, literally the only way that she leaves her house as a housemaid is by combusting and exploding out of the chimney and then becoming a bunch of dismembered limbs. It's hilarious and sad, and it works. Another film I'd like to talk about is Daisy Doodads Dial, starring Florence Turner and Lawrence Trimble. In the film, Daisy and her husband decide to enter this face-pulling competition, but Daisy is prevented from taking part because she has a toothache. Her husband wins the prize, and she is really annoyed, so when she sees an ad for another face-pulling competition, she is going to win. She's practicing making weird faces on the street, in her carriage, everywhere, and it eventually results in her getting arrested for disturbing peace. This film is genuinely hilarious and is yet another act of feminist protest. I mean, she's scaring people on the streets by making these crazy faces that oftentimes, especially in that era, women are meant to be composed, they are meant to be quiet, they're meant to be agreeable, and here she is getting arrested for disturbing the peace by making such silly faces. Now, you can't talk about slapstick comedy without talking about Mabel Normand. Mabel Normand was kind of the slapstick comedy star. She starred in several of the Mack Sennett films. She was part of the Bathing Beauties. She was controversial. I mean, some of her pictures didn't even get played. But even up against someone as famous as Charlie Chaplin, you can see in this clip in Mabel's Busy Day, she really, is the star of the scene, and she lets it be known. She's fighting and kicking and screaming just as much as Chaplin is, really. My favorite thing about Mabel Normand, though, is just how candid she was. My favorite quote from her is, "Say anything you like, but don't say I love to work. That sounds like Mary Pickford, the prissy bitch. Just say I like to pinch babies and twist their legs and get drunk." Classic Mabel. This movement of women starring in humorous films and having agency over what they're doing wasn't just led by white women, though. The film Laughing Gas, starring Bertha Regustus in 1907, is a great film about how a woman goes to the dentist for a toothache and is given gas for her toothache. And her laughter is literally contagious, and she can't stop laughing after she's given the gas. The dentist can't stop laughing. People home on the subway can't stop laughing. And it's just this literal contagious laughter. What's fun about this movie is instead of people scrutinizing her for laughing uncontrollably, obviously the laughter is contagious, and so they join in, and it's kind of this celebration of female joy, which is something that has never been on the screen prior to this. It's very revolutionary. The film industry and the women's suffrage movement created a space for future female comedians to stray away from the traditional way in which a woman was supposed to act at the time. Created a space for comedians like Lucille Ball, Laverne and Shirley, and even Kristen Wiig have fun and fulfilling careers that aren't tied to the expectations that go with their gender. Who knows, without Mabel Normand, we might not have this Kia commercial of Melissa McCarthy dramatically falling out of trees and breaking ginormous ice caps. And that would be a shame. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation /video essay. I hope you enjoyed it.